Hi everyone, and welcome back to Shattered Silence, Stories of Recovery and Resilience. My name is Jori, and I am here with a good friend, Corianne. Corianne, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
So Corianne and I have been friends for nearly 6 years now. We were introduced from Kyle because Kyle and Corianne grew up together.
Yes, we met when we were in kindergarten. I think I was 4 still due to my birthday, and he was 5. So we were very, very little.
Yeah.
And it was actually crazy taking my daughter a few weeks to school, like a few weeks ago to school, and her being in kindergarten. I just brought so many emotions. I'm like, what if she meets her Kyle? Like, it's so crazy. Aww. And, but yeah, we stayed friends all through elementary school and junior high and high school. I ended up meeting my now husband, Ian, and introduced them, I think. And somehow we all became best friends.
Yes.
Kyle ended up moving in with us after the Marines, and we just all stayed so close. Kyle was in our wedding. We've done everything together with you.
Even after, you introduced Kyle and Ian, like, Kyle and Ian became, like, besties. Like, best even friends. Till his last moments, him and Ian were just so close.
So close. Every time his phone would ring, I would be like, tell me that's not Kyle. that is number 7 that today of Kyle just calling.
Just wants to talk to anybody and everybody.
Making a little drive, wants to chat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would do anything to hear his phone call go through again. But
I know, wouldn't we all?
Yes. But they were extremely close. Very, very best friend.
And then after your guys' wedding, you guys started having your pretty babies.
Yes. So we had Haven, and then soon after that, I became pregnant with Baylor. And both pregnancies were honestly really good. I was pretty lucky in that department.
Yeah.
A little bit of sickness, but nothing too bad. And then I had a C-section with Baylor.
Okay.
And that changed my life. So I ended up having a C-section. He was breech, so he was a week early. And they prescribed me pain medications.
Okay.
It was Norcos. And as soon as they prescribed that, I remember going home and not feeling like myself. Like this unfamiliar feeling that I didn't feel with Haven.
Okay.
And, I grew up playing babies. I was always playing house.
Yeah.
I was meant to be a mom. And so having those feelings compared to after I had Haven to after I had Baylor was just so bizarre to me. I actually remember the moment I felt like something was wrong, I just fell to the floor and just started crying. My husband was leaning over me with Christian music and praying, and I just remember thinking, I can't be a mom. And that is, if you know me, that is not like me whatsoever.
But that is also something I feel like people need to hear too, because people don't really, you don't talk about postpartum. Yeah. Obviously that was what you're going through.
Yes. Yeah. And I didn't really know it at first because I wasn't used to it with Haven. I had no clue what postpartum.
A new mom, or, I guess, just having Baylor and having a good experience after having Haven, you're like, I have no idea. I would have no idea. And
I remember seeing ads and people saying like they didn't want to pick up their baby, and I just remember thinking like, how awful.
Yeah.
What? You don't want to hold your baby?
Yeah, because you haven't been in that position. Yeah.
And then, so for me to go through it, I felt like I was kind of in denial. Like, maybe I just didn't feel right. It was the C-section.
Right.
But it did all come down to, it was postpartum. And so they prescribed me pain pills. I took them, and they kept refilling the prescription. They kept refilling it, and I think it went on for like 3 months.
Okay.
Which for a C-section, you should probably only take them, I'm not a doctor, but like a week. I think they suggest like a week. But he kept prescribing them. So it was until then that they were not, I was not only getting them from a doctor, but I was needing to get them from a doctor.
Okay, so was there a certain point in time that you kind of felt like, okay, something's off, and I I'm taking these pills more than I should, or why am I getting these refilled?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember driving in the car, and I had just did my CVS app and requested a refill on those the pain pills. And I pull up to CVS because I think the doctor's just going to prescribe them, and it sends me a notification that said the doctor did not fill your medication or denied your request. And my heart just sank because I was like, I do need them.
Yeah, why can't I get my
why
medication?
can't I? What do you mean I can't get this?
Yeah.
So then I started freaking out. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'm addicted. And I just remember sitting in my car like, oh my gosh, I never thought I'd be an addict.
I have chills. I seriously, because I feel like, I mean, I know parts of your story, but I also don't know a ton of your details and stuff like that. But that does give me chills because I'm sure so often it's from surgery or it's from something that you have to get done.
Yeah.
That has to happen. And then you start taking pain medication. And I saw somewhere that after, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. You can fact check me or whatever because I don't know if this is accurate. But I saw something that says like after 3 to 5 days or something that it starts to change the chemical like balance in your brain. Like, and starting that dependency.
Yeah.
And
it
so,
happens very quickly.
Yeah.
And people aren't aware of that. And I feel like it's just, you have to get it done, like you said. And so you're going to take medication, you're going to listen to a doctor, you know.
Right.
And then a lot of people get in this predicament.
Right. And
which
so
is
then
crazy. So
after you realized.
After I realized that I was addicted, I didn't know what to do. I felt so alone. And I actually asked someone who knew someone if they could sell me any off the street. And I didn't say it was for me because I was extremely embarrassed.
Right.
I remember using my cousin's name, and I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want anyone to find out. It was my little secret. Although at the same time, I think I wanted the world to know.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, you're like crying for help.
Yes.
But like not out loud.
Yeah. And it's so strange because I tell my husband everything. So why couldn't I tell him this?
Right.
You know, people get so embarrassed, and it is embarrassing. No one wants to admit to that.
Yeah, and that's how I feel Kyle always felt. He didn't want to tell me. He didn't want me to know he was struggling, you know what I mean? And like that's just exactly like what you're saying here with Ian. You're like, how am I going to get myself to tell him this?
Yeah. So I was buying them off the street. They were oxys, I think people call them.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I knew they were oxy.
Something that's
something that filled in that gap and numbed me from my pain. Yes, yeah. So I don't think I cared what I was taking as long as I was feeling that gap, that numbing. I needed something to numb.
Right.
Or else I couldn't function.
Yeah.
I mean, I was doing the bare minimum just to keep my babies afloat.
Yeah.
I couldn't, I remember Ian sitting down with me saying, like, you can't get up and do the dishes. Like, you can't clean our room. You know, it was just, I was just surviving. I was just getting through.
So did Ian.
Yeah.
That's when he kind of started to notice
he
things.
started noticing things because it wasn't how I was with Haven. And he started noticing things, and I was asleep, passed out in bed, and he thought, something must be going on. So he didn't know what I was doing. He went to check my purse for like receipts of places I could have bought something that didn't seem right. And there was a certain zipper in my purse, and it was filled with these pain pills from off the street. So
when he found that,
yes,
how did that go?
I was upset. I think deep down, I was very excited. Yeah. Like, I was like, okay, this is out. Cat's out of the bag. Like, now I can do something. A little bit. Yeah. But I was also still embarrassed and just wanted to deny it. But there's no denying.
Yeah.
You know, it's in your own purse.
Right.
So it was almost like I just surrendered to it. You know, this is what I've been doing.
Right.
And so...
like, what did Ian say?
He was very, very sweet about it. He wasn't mad. He knew something was going on. It wasn't like it caught him off guard. He just never knew that it was pills.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it could have been drinking.
It,
It was very unexpected, especially with a 17-month-old and a newborn at home. And so the first thing he did was call Kyle. Because he knew Kyle had gone through some issues as well. And Kyle, I mean, was there in a heartbeat.
He was. Honestly, as much as he probably didn't want to hear that phone call of what you were going through, he probably was like so happy to help. Though. Oh, yeah. And he was. I know he was, because he held your hand and he walked you into Aspire.
Yes, he did. And the first time he called Scott, and the owner of Aspire. And he's like, I got to get my best friend in. And I remember sitting right there thinking, I don't want to do this. Like, I can just do it by myself. But sometimes you can't.
Right.
I think I was being too stubborn.
Right.
And I needed help.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it alone. And I had been doing this secret alone for so long.
Right.
So he came with me to Aspire. He held my hand the entire time. I remember I had to go into an intake, and they were like, Kyle can't come in here. And I remember thinking, like, what do you mean? What do you mean Kyle can't come in here? So he waited right on the outside of the door. And when I did my intake, I opened the door, and he was still in that same spot we left holding hands when I got back out. So I just relocked. And ended up having to go home because I wasn't sober. And you had to be 24 hours sober. So I went back home. And then now I had a full day to think about it. And now I'm like, not doing it. Not going back.
Now you're starting to also experience withdrawals.
Yes. So then withdrawals come into play. And I was shaky. I didn't want to eat. I was nauseous. And I had remembered this feeling one time when I was driving actually down Rosedale Highway to pick up more pills. And the guy was late. The dealer was late, and I remember just shaking uncontrollably.
Man,
like, I can't drive right now. That would be so dangerous. And so I just pulled over and had them come to me because I didn't trust myself to drive. I mean, I was so restless, and my hands were shaking. I couldn't grip a steering wheel. And so that was another moment where I was like, I don't want to get clean. Like, that does not sound fun.
Yeah, I had that glimpse. To go through this.
I had that little glimpse, and I was like, I don't want to tell a word.
Intense. That's so intense. And, you know, I remember Kyle going through it, too. Because even when he went to Aspire and stuff, it was just like, I got this. Like, you know, and I didn't know how to be a supporting role. I didn't know. I really had no idea. I just kind of took his word for it, you know. But yeah, so when he was kind of going through his withdrawals too, because same thing, he had to be clean, you know, and you have to be clean to like get on any sort of other medication like Suboxone and stuff like that. And so I remember seeing him go through it too, and I just remember how rough it was to see him go through it. I can't imagine just like actually going through it like you had to.
Yeah, it was pretty miserable to the point where I wanted to take one more pill. Yeah. I just kept telling myself, okay, just this will be the last time. Yeah. And I think a lot of people in addiction do that. They know that feeling of starting to get clean or that worry, and they're like, okay, just one more day.
Right.
But if you flip it around and you get clean and you just tell yourself one more day, it is so much worth it than just one more day of addiction.
Right.
And I remember just feeling so alone in addiction because no one, you're not going to tell someone about it, you know? And I think that's why people don't get help because they feel so alone. And I remember feeling alone with postpartum and it's not talked about enough.
Right.
And neither is addiction. Right. And so I was just kind of stuck in this bubble and Kyle helped me. Yeah. I remember starting my first day at Aspire, and everyone was absolutely wonderful. Everyone was so open, and I remember sitting there thinking, wow, I wasn't alone that whole time. And that's what Kyle kept telling me. You're not alone. Like, there's so many people struggling.
So then you made it through. You made it through.
I did. So I had lots of visitors come and hold me accountable. My best friend, Savannah, came from out of town and held my hand through it all. And I got through those withdrawals. I ended up having some seizures due to withdrawing. And it was horrible.
Yeah.
It was nothing I had experienced before, but I would do it again in a heartbeat to get to where I am today.
Right.
Yeah. So I made it through. I ended up graduating, Aspire.
That's awesome, yeah.
And in November, it will be 3 years.
Oh my
clean.
gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
that's a huge accomplishment.
It is.
It really
it's huge, and I am very proud of myself.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to say it to someone, but I never knew the timing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with all of this that happened because of Kyle, I felt like it was my turn to tell my story.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of courage, especially with not a lot of people knowing your story. I feel like, it does take a lot of courage to come out and, like, talk about your feelings and how you...
And scary.
Like, the thick of it. You going through it, you know? We have a message from our sponsors, Aspire Counseling Services. We just want to remind everyone that seeking treatment should never be stigmatized. Aspire specializes in providing support and treatment for both teens and adults with mental health and substance use disorders, recognizing that these conditions often do coexist. They are an amazing resource, and you can get started by texting or calling the number 888-585-7373 to enroll at any time. So I want to circle back to postpartum because, like we said, it's not talked about that much, and most of the time I feel like people don't even really realize, especially for someone that had just had a C-section that is prescribed pain pills.
Yeah.
I feel like you already are kind of in this weird, like, headspace. You just had a baby. You're kind of already, like, lack of sleep, lack of a lot of things. Then let's add some pain pills to it. It's kind of like you're already kind of in a daze. So it's like, how do you find out that you're even going through postpartum, you know? I'm sure that's so hard.
It was, and like I said, I wasn't familiar with it because I didn't get it with Haven.
Right.
So I'm like, what are all these feelings? Like, why don't I want to hold my baby? Like that. It was so frustrating.
Yeah.
But I just felt so stuck. Like I couldn't get up. And the difference is I didn't bond with Baylor like I did Haven. Which, if you see me and my son now, it's a whole different story. Yeah. But, there was no, like, connection, and I just felt depressed and had all these things go through my mind. I'm the worst mom, and I'm doing this and this, and, I just didn't have that connection or bond. But when I went through rehab and I got clean, after just, like, 2 days of sobriety, I really felt that bond all over again, and it was what I had wanted. I just wish the doctor would have cut me off sooner.
Okay, so when you talked about your CVS app, that actually kind of makes me think too, like, did you ever actually go back to your doctor, or was it something so easy where you could just, like, give me a refill? Yeah,
so I did go back after, I think it was a week or so, to check on, like, my stitches. And honestly, I milked it. I was like, I am in so much pain. This hurts. And they refilled it right then.
Do you know your time frame at all? I'm just curious because, like I said, I'm pretty sure the chemical, like your brain chemical imbalance or dependency starts after 3 to 5 days. So I'm just like, I
think it was around a week or 6 or 7 days when I had that doctor appointment and milked it.
Yeah. So I just feel like you're
something
already,
I would have done before. So
your brain's already starting to depend on it. It happened so fast. Yeah.
Yeah. And so after that, he just kept prescribing them.
Yeah.
Through an app. Which was...
that's kind of crazy.
It's crazy because he doesn't... all these doctors just keep prescribing them, and they're not even seeing the patients.
Right.
It's just a quick refill.
Yeah. That's what's kind of scary. And I just... Well, it brings me up to a story of Kyle, too, because he actually got his appendix out. And when he got his appendix out, he was prescribed pain pills. After... he got home from the hospital, I remember seeing him grab his pill bottle and flush them down the toilet. And I thought that was kind of weird. But we were kind of in the earlier stages of our relationship, like, so I didn't know anything about previous addictions or anything. I was like, oh, that's weird. Maybe he just doesn't want to get addicted to them, I guess. And I just kind of brushed it off, you know.
Yeah.
But then I do remember after, like, maybe even that same day or the day after, he was in so much pain that he was just like, oh my gosh, I have to get something for this. And I think that's where the pills came in to his life again, you know. And you don't realize that fentanyl is in so many of these dang pills. You think you're getting something, and then it's something completely different. And I feel like even when he passed away too, getting it from someone that you kind of know, or someone, you know, and you kind of trust them, thinking that, oh, it's at least safer.
Safe.
Yeah,
it's safer.
Yeah.
It all sounds bad, like off the streets, but when you add in it's a friend of a friend of a friend's cousin, and so I just figured it was safe. They told me it was Oxy, and I was on my way each time. And I was taking up to 10 to 15 pills a day.
Oh my gosh.
Towards the end. And I remember just telling Kyle, it's just Oxy. Like, I can get off it. It didn't sound as bad as fentanyl. And Aspire tested me right then, I think that same day. And they said, Corianne, you have fentanyl in your system. No Oxy. Not even nothing of Oxy was in my system. It was only fentanyl.
Okay, that gave me chills because like I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Like that it's just straight fentanyl. That is,
and it's
really
so
scary.
Crazy.
Yeah. And honestly, anybody that can, you know, that going up to 10 or 15 pills a day, you're so lucky.
I'm so incredibly blessed to be here.
Yeah.
So incredibly
I know
blessed.
that brings up a lot of emotions, but like, gosh, I just think so many of these people don't even know, and you just don't know what you're taking, and it really could be the last time you take it. Yeah. And so, again, that's why we're getting the message out.
Yeah. Adding up all those times, and of course it wasn't 15 at the beginning, obviously, but you work your way up to this tolerance. And you think about how many pills have I taken in 8 months? You know, how am I still alive? Like, that is just it's wild.
I know.
And I swear I was meant to be a mom and a wife. And I am
so it's inspired you?
Yes, it has inspired me. One of the counselors actually at Aspire was amazing. I mean, just knew me on every level. She was probably one of the first people besides Kyle that I completely opened up to, that I felt comfortable. And I just remember thinking, if it wasn't for her and for Kyle and my family, that I don't know if I could have kept going. And she changed my life in so many ways to where once I got clean and I graduated, I went back to school to be a substance and alcohol abuse counselor.
That's so awesome.
So I have about 6 months left till I get my degree, and I just hope to be that help for someone else.
Yeah, that is so awesome. And I feel like a lot of people that kind of go through their recovery, thankfully some people are like just like you that want to help people share their stories and kind of just help people not feel alone, like you said you were. If you didn't have that counselor, who knows where you'd be, you know? You needed someone like that, just like someone else is going to need someone like you to help them.
You feel so incredibly alone.
Yeah.
But once you open up and once you get the help that you need, you don't realize how many people are actually on your side.
I know.
And going through the same thing.
Truly.
There's even so many functioning addicts.
Yeah. And even since this podcast has come out, I cannot even begin to tell you about how many people have reached out and how many people are in our same shoes, although our stories are so different. But just people understand and people can relate to you, and it's really nice and comforting to feel like you're not alone. Yeah. Thank you for coming on to the show today.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate you sharing your story and just the willingness to share. But for all of our viewers out here, do you have any advice for anyone that might be going through postpartum or even addiction?
Yes. Get help.
Yeah.
Just do it. It's so worth it. Talk to your best friend. Talk to your doctor. Even if you realize I don't feel right, like after having a baby, I feel disconnected, or maybe you read up on some things and your symptoms kind of follow along, or just if you're not feeling yourself, or you notice changes in your body, just let someone know. Just get help, and if you are going through addiction, get help.
Right. I know.
You know, you're not alone.
Yeah. I know those beginning steps, I'm sure,
everyone.
are the toughest.
Oh, yes. The beginning is the toughest, but I promise it's worth it.
But once you pass that hump, right?
Yeah,
it's all up from there. So, anyways, well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Shattered Silence, Stories of Recovery and Resilience. As always, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can watch full episodes on YouTube, or you can listen in on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.